All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Visual Studio Code live stream. My name is Sana. I'm usually behind the scenes, and usually Burke is the one that you're interfacing with on camera. He couldn't be here today, so I will try my best to do my best Burke impersonation the entire time I'm hosting. Let's see how that goes. As the end of the year is here, so I think this is probably our last live stream of the year. Thank you, everyone, for joining in every week as we have these. We love the community that we've built over the time on YouTube. Let us know what you want to see for the new year. What can we do differently about our live streams? Who else do you want to see us bring on? What parts of the editor do you want us to talk about? Let us know in the comments below. We'll restart on January 13th. So just a couple of reminders, like we always have, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube channel right here. Make sure you also check us out on TikTok. That's where all the cool kids are. You'll see a different side to us on there, but I assure you it's equally as fun. Make sure you join the meetup group to continue to know about all the events we're doing on our live stream. And you can also check us out on our website where we post previous recordings of the live stream and the calendar of what's next to come. So without further ado, I want to bring on our guests for today, Jonathan and Kevin from Dendron. Dendron is a note-taking app for developers. So welcome, Jonathan and Kevin. How are you guys doing today?
Good. How are you?
Yeah,
Good.
doing good.
Yeah, so I'm excited to hear you. I've personally used Dendron, and I think it's a really cool app. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Feel free to take it away.
Yeah, love to. So thank you, Sana, for the introduction, and thrilled to be here today to talk about Dendron with all of you. So what Dendron is, it's an open source, local first note-taking tool that we've built with native integration to VS Code. It's made by developers and for developers. And that's one of the reasons why we built it inside of VS Code. VS Code's world's most popular IDE, and it's already where we spend most of our time. And as an IDE, what VS Code allows us to do is look up, organize, and reference code from small code bases to really large ones. And that's really how we think about Dendron. So less as a note-taking tool, but more as an IDE, but one for general knowledge. Now, we'll explain what that means in a bit, but first, a little intro. So I'm Kevin. I'm the founder of Dendron. So my background is as a software engineer. I worked at AWS for around 5 years before I left to do some consulting, and then I started working on Dendron full-time in 2019. We launched in the summer of that year, went into Y Combinator as well that same year, and we've been building the product and growing ever since. Now, my CTO, Jonathan, he is actually calling in from Beijing, but spiritually, he's a lot closer to Redmond than I am, and I'll let him do his own introduction.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jonathan Yeung. Thanks a lot for allowing us to be on the stream today. As Kevin mentioned, I'm actually a Microsoft alumni. I worked at Microsoft in Redmond for about 6 years. I then moved to Hong Kong, where I was the executive director of technology at Goldman Sachs. And recently, I've just joined on to Dendron as the CTO.
So the reason why me and Jonathan both left our jobs to work on Dendron was because we found it difficult to work with information in our prior roles. So as devs or people working in technology, things change all the time. I know that I had a hard time keeping up with everything in AWS. And whether you're working backend, front-end, or anywhere around the field of technology, it is a lot and constantly a moving target. Every time you learn something, it's already outdated and there's something cooler on Hacker News. So with all this information, it's impossible to keep in your head, but it's also hard to externalize because then you can't find it again later. And so essentially, everything was just overwhelming. And fundamentally, the challenge is that we don't have tools for humans to manage knowledge at scale. I know that when I say this claim, most people will think of this. And given our audience, you'll probably think of this. But the thing is that these are fundamentally different problems. Because when you have the index of all human knowledge, and you're looking for a good result among billions and billions of possible well-structured, well-linked pieces of information, that's different than, for example, if you're searching through your OneNote or your Google Drive. And so this is where there's a gap. when you're dealing with knowledge bases that are much smaller than the internet, so your personal knowledge bases, your institutional knowledge bases, and this is the gap that we are aiming to fill with Dendron. So our mission is to provide a tool to help humans organize, reference, and work with any amount of information. Now, Jonathan's going to explain how we do that.
Thanks, Kevin. So there's 3 key aspects to any information management system. There's the input, the process of getting data in, retrieval, process of getting data out, and then maintenance, which is as your knowledge base grows over time, making sure that it still is organized and working for you. So we test that most note-taking tools focus on the first thing, the input. They're highly optimized for you to be able to get your information quickly in. But for most tools, once you get past a certain threshold, once your knowledge base grows past a certain size, it becomes really hard to get that information back out. So Dendron tries to change the paradigm by focusing on all 3 aspects. And to do that, we actually looked to software for inspiration. So over the past many decades, software tools and the paradigms have become very sophisticated for managing really large code bases. So the code bases for some of the most complex projects in the world span millions of lines of code. And we've developed all these paradigms such as adding structure, modularity, having world-class tools to work with that structure, concepts like refactoring. We thought, why can't we take some of those concepts and apply it to managing information as well? So that's really what we're trying to do with Dendron. So having said that, Kevin, why don't you go ahead and walk us through some of the features of Dendron?
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. And something that you might have noticed during this talk is we've been presenting inside of VS Code. What you see right now, this is a Dendron note. And for the slides, we're using a plugin called Reveal, which is both a VS Code extension as well as a Markdown extension. While this isn't necessarily a Dendron feature, it does show you the power we get from building on top of these 2 foundations. So in terms of getting to the actual demo, let's start. One thing I want to highlight from the beginning is that Dendron is just plain text Markdown. And this is awesome because say you don't have access to an IDE or other tooling. Because this is plain text, you can open it in your existing tools, like Vim, for example. In addition, you can use your favorite version control to manage it. We use Vim. You can get file history, and you can also access more powerful features like git blame for individual line annotations. Vim, not Vim, Dendron is Markdown. And specifically, we support GitHub flavored Markdown, which means that anything you write on GitHub, you can also write in Dendron. Now, in addition, we support extensions to that. So we support diagrams. We also support math, so you can write equations. And we have something unique to Dendron, which we call note references. So this is the syntax. And what note references let you do is they let you embed notes into other notes. So you can embed either a full note, a specific section to your note, or even arbitrary text within a note. Now, Jonathan's going to talk to you about how we find and organize notes in Dendron.
Thanks, Kevin. So already built into VS Code, there's some powerful commands to help you search information. You have Control-P to look across file names, Control-F, Control-Shift-F to search for raw text. So with Dendron, we introduce another tool to help you do that. And we call it lookup, and we invoke it with Command-L, Control-L, depending on your platform. And with Dendron, we organize our notes into hierarchies, and we use this lookup tool to build upon some of those structures and allow you to quickly traverse those hierarchies to find your notes. So Kevin's showing right now, he's brought up lookup, and let me go ahead and look up my Python note. And so notice that we use a dot delimited hierarchy, and this means that we can represent both the folder and the note in plain text files. We also have a custom tree view on the side, which can let you see the logical view of the hierarchies. All right, so lookup's not just for finding notes. We actually build it in such that you can create notes directly from lookup too. So let's say I'm trying to record some new recipes that I've just been trying out. So I bring up lookup, and if I type recipes, then I can immediately create that note. So lookup makes it really easy to work with hierarchies. So let's bring to a different example that the audience is a little more familiar with. we have notes here for programming languages. And oftentimes, if you're working with many programming languages in your day job, it's often hard to context switch between them. So sometimes for me, I find it really hard to exactly remember what a Boolean value is in various languages. So let me take a look in Python, and I can look up my Python Boolean note, and I can very quickly get a mapping of which values map to true and false. All right, but let's say I'm context switching again to a different language. With lookup, with just one quick query, I can look up what a Boolean value is in whatever language I'm working on next. All right, so another concept that Dendron introduces is schemas. So schemas make it very efficient to look up data by your hierarchies by adding some additional structure to your hierarchies. And they work pretty much just like how database schemas work. So database schemas make sure that your data is consistent. And Dendron does the same thing, but for your notes. So Kevin's brought up this schema that we've designed for this language hierarchy. And you can see it's just a YAML file. And really, schemas help with several things. They help during note creation. So for example, let's add notes for a new language. So let's bring up lookup again. And we're going to start learning about this language called Pig Latin. So as he types, you can see that there's a book icon in lookup. And this indicates that there's a schema match. So he's created the Pig Latin note. And you can see that there's already a pre-filled in template. And that's another thing that schemas allow you to do. They actually allow you to add templates based on schema matches, so you can define structure for your notes automatically. All right, so let's take it one step farther. Let's go ahead and record what Boolean represents. So very quickly, we can see another schema match for the Boolean note with a different template applied. All right. Okay, so I've talked about schemas, I've talked about lookup. Let's talk about how we allow you to navigate between notes with Dendron. All right, so Kevin's going to bring up this links note. And Dendron supports WikiLinks. For some folks who may be unaware of what WikiLinks are, it uses double bracket syntax. And this lets you link from one note to another. And if you hover over it and you hit Control-Enter, you can then navigate to that note in the link. Now, links are very powerful. As you develop more and more knowledge, or as you add more and more to your PKM, it's important to keep track of the various relationships between your ideas and your notes. So we have several ways that allow you to do this. So Kevin's going to bring up the backlinks panel. And in this view, what you can see is every single note in your workspace that has a current link to the current note. Furthermore, we also, okay. Okay, so Kevin's brought up the graph view. But let me go ahead and talk about refactoring first. Okay, sorry about that. So another concept that we do, that we introduce with Dendron is the concept of refactoring. So I mentioned there's 3 key aspects to note-taking tools, and the third one is about maintenance. So as code bases grow over time, we have very powerful tooling within IDEs to refactor your code. So we thought, why can't we apply those same concepts to your knowledge base as well? So right now, Kevin is going to rename this link. And because we're in VS Code, we can take advantage of the semantics of having rename symbol. So just like you rename symbol with your code, you can also use F2 to rename a note. And what happens here is that all the links that have linked to that note will automatically get updated to make sure that they don't get broken. So we can refactor notes, we can refactor headers, and we can also even take it one step further. We can refactor an entire hierarchy. And what we can do is just with one command is we can refactor, let's say, our Python hierarchy to a Monty hierarchy. And this will update all the notes as well as update all the links that have been pointing to that. So just as case study, recently we've had our Dendron wiki where we were trying to make a lot of changes to it to update it and to make it better. And we did a refactoring of it, and it spanned over 300 files and over 2,000 lines of information. And because we had this refactor capability, we're able to do it in just a matter of hours. But without it, it honestly would have probably taken weeks, and we probably would have ended up with a lot of broken links. All right, so with that, Kevin, why don't you go ahead and talk about how you can modularize your information with Dendron?
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. So far, all the features we've been talking about have been about individual nodes. And so vaults let you, well, first, vaults walk you up one ladder up that abstraction chain and let you work with collections of nodes. So a vault is just a folder. It's usually backed by Git. And they're kind of like modules in programming that let you encapsulate common information into a reusable abstraction that you can mix and match and use in different contexts. Now, one of those contexts in Dendron is access control. So for example, right now, this is done in the demo vault. And this demo vault is available publicly on GitHub. You're free to clone it and follow along as well. But what I can also do is I can add a new vault, call it secret. And this vault will only live on my computer. Now, this is a pretty common pattern for users. They keep their personal notes on Dropbox, let's say, and then they have their work notes on their work computer, but they use Dendron to manage both. Another use case for vaults is sharing your notes. So any valid vault you can publish to GitHub, and then you can pull down using the Git URL. We have some preset ones just for people to try out. So I'm just going to pull down the Dendron wiki. And so what this is if you go to wiki.dendron.so, this is for public-facing user guide. Fun fact about this is you can also use lookup in the wiki, and it works kind of just like it does in VS Code. When we add the VS Code vault, we end up pulling down all the notes from this public website, so we can now access it locally. So vaults are one way of sharing your notes, and the other way, which we've just shown, is publishing. So anything in your workspace, you can publish as a static site, which you can host anywhere. GitHub and Netlify are some of our most popular options. The cool thing is once you publish your notes, you can instantly share a link even to people that aren't using Dendron. So say, for example, I don't know, you have a web developer friend who's looking for a new job. Well, you can look up the Dendron jobs page, you can generate a link to it, and you can share with them that link and tell them about this cool note-taking tool startup that you heard about. In addition, if it's published on GitHub, every page has an edit on GitHub button, so you can edit it using one click. Now, the last thing I want to highlight brings us back to VS Code. I'm switching now to the Dendron codebase. And for the Dendron codebase, we actually have a Dendron workspace inside the docs folder. What this means is this Dendron workspace, it has access to the Dendron user guide and the Dendron developer docs. So if you clone the Dendron codebase, you're good to go without any further information. The way that we've organized the various packages is every package has a hierarchy. And what you'll notice is that you can link inside your Dendron notes to your code. You can also do the opposite. And this is really useful, for example, for when you're documenting code, and sometimes doc strings just aren't enough. For example, you want to explain more of the lifecycle. Here, I have a note back to the Dendron vault. And in here, I have a rich diagram explaining how things work. All right, that's all for the demo. I'm going to switch it back to Jonathan for some closing remarks.
Thanks, Kevin. So hopefully now you've gotten a preview of some of our features, you can get an idea of what we're trying to achieve with Dendron. So what we're trying to do really is we're trying to help developers with the problem of information overload. And we're trying to tackle this problem by adding structure and organization, as well as a lot of powerful tooling on top of that. And we want to make it such that you can manage your knowledge just like you're used to managing your code. So as we think about how we're building out Dendron as a product, we're taking a bottoms-up approach to do it. So we're trying to start by making a note-taking tool that developers and individuals really enjoy. And that's really why we're integrating in VS Code, which is to meet you where you already are. So some stats, Kevin over there has actually amassed a 30,000 personal note collection that he has in Dendron. And we have a various number of users in our community as well who have over 10,000 notes in their Dendron workspace. And we're trying to start with that foundation and then build upon it to build a collaborative feature set to make Dendron work great for teams. Things like better sync and having access control. And we're already using Dendron internally for our team. Our team workspace is already close to about 20,000 notes. And we really drive everything out of this toolset. So it's not just for our company documentation, but also our user guide, our developer docs, our blog, and also our company handbook. So Kevin, I think, did you want to share something from the company handbook with everyone?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Jonathan. So part of the company handbook, we have our mission statement, which has been our North Star since we started as a company. Now, this was said by Vannevar Bush, who was an early pioneer in this space of information science. And essentially, the gist of the quote is, there's too much information. We don't have the tools to properly work with it. Now, mind the date. He said this in 1945. So 70 years ago, there was too much information and we didn't have adequate tooling. And today, I would argue that the tooling really hasn't changed, but the problem has gotten many orders of magnitude worse. And this is essentially what we're trying to do with Dendron. Provide a tool that can give humans command over the inherited knowledge of the ages. If anything we have said today sounds interesting, we have provided the VS Code team with links, which you should be able to see as part of the stream. There's a Getting Started guide to download Dendron on the VS Code Marketplace. We have a GitHub link, and so please star us, submit issues, or let us know if you find any bugs. And finally, we have a very vibrant Discord channel. There are over 1,000 dendrologists that love to talk about anything knowledge management. Feel free to join, connect with the community, talk with the team, ask questions, or share funny cat pictures. We don't judge. All right, with that, we will now take questions. Thank you very much.
Cool. Thanks, Jonathan and Kevin. That definitely beats like the paper notebook that I've got going. It's not hierarchical and won't grow with all the information I'm trying to put in here. So we've got a lot of questions from the audience. A couple came from Paul Watts and Ranger Code. So they asked, A, is this free or does this cost money to use? And then how does Dendron make money so that they can, sustain your ongoing development as a company?
Yeah, great question. And yes, it is free. The client is open source and you can download it, and it's available in both VS Code and VS Codium. The way that we plan on making money is, John mentioned these team features we were working on. We have existing teams that use Dendron, but they find that working with just Git is a little hard to do. And so they're asking us for a better sync and easier usage. And so we're actually working on a managed version that teams can use. And our business model is really taking a look at players like Confluence and we want to replace them as a knowledge base of choice for technical teams and developers.
Okay, yeah, I definitely know a lot of employees that use Confluence for note-taking as well. Another question that we got from a couple people was comparing this to other note-taking tools. So Christian asked, what are the advantages of Dendron over Obsidian? Is it just that it's integrated with VS Code?
Yeah, so in addition to integration with VS Code, it's that the code is open source, but also that we focus on structure and refactoring. So in Obsidian, you can link your notes into graphs, and this works well, but you eventually hit a threshold, usually at 10,000 notes, where you can't find things. In Dendron, you don't just have the graphs, but really focus on how do you maintain your notes over time so that as your knowledge base grows, you can still find what you need.
Okay. We had Mazar say that he was using NVim with Markdown files and that this is a game changer, so he thinks that's really cool. S also asks how it's different from Notion, which I know is a popular note-taking tool as well.
Yeah, for Notion, it's kind of similar. So one thing where we're different is, well, you'll never have to wait for your notes to load. They're available right here on your file system. Otherwise, we have the similar hierarchy that Notion does. But going back to that case study that Jonathan mentioned, we were able to completely refactor our hierarchies in Dendron in a matter of hours, changing over 2,000 files or 2,000 lines in 300 files. If you wanted to do that in Notion, good luck. because nobody does that. Once you're stuck with something, you're kind of done.
Yeah, just to reiterate on that a little bit, I think, at least for me, the thing that really opened my eyes as I was using Dendron was this concept of really like taking advantage of dry, like don't repeat yourself, having a lot of references throughout. But then over time, if you don't treat it like you treat references in code, for example, it's impossible to maintain that and maintain the links to make sure that everything still works over time. And so that's a really, I think, differentiating factor with Dendron and our approach of trying to apply these software paradigms to make it sure that over time, as your knowledge base grows and scales, that you can still manage and have a hold over everything.
Yeah, I definitely have tried to use Notion and try to update lots of notes at once, and it feels pretty manual. There was another question from Adobe Pirate CS that he asked if it's possible to join different Markdown files based on a mind map linking hierarchy and export it as a single PDF file. I don't know what the use case for that is, but in this case, he thinks it's a good feature to add.
Yeah, so for that, since we're on GitHub, we encourage anyone with issues to submit a feature request. We look at any and all, and so the nice thing is, like, even if we don't have time to work on it right now, you are free to contribute to you're free to contribute, and we have developer docs and everything ready to go.
Okay, so all the people that are watching, if there are feature requests, if you use other, I guess, note-taking tools that you like the features of that you want to see if Dendron can add, the best thing to do is just go to the GitHub issue, figure out what the team is thinking, figure out their roadmap as well, and then join in with the community on GitHub and Discord.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. I guess there's a couple minutes left. Can you tell us more about like the community and like support aspect that Dendron provides? Like you mentioned Discord. So are there a lot of other, I guess, people that use Dendron, and like how do they share their note-taking style or like how their strategies?
Yeah, so on Discord, we have specific channels where people can go to share their notes. So for example, we have tips and tricks, schemas, multi-vault. So various areas of Dendron, people will congregate around those channels. And then also on Dendron itself, we have a workflow section. So for most common workflows like bullet journaling, meeting notes, mobile, we cover ways of doing this. Our most popular workflow, and the one that we recommend for people, we call it the amoeba. Essentially put everything together in one note until it gets too big, and then refactor that note into smaller notes, and basically create structure as you need it, instead of forcing everything into a structure.
Okay. Are there also, someone asked about like tutorials or showcases for how to get started with Dendron?
Yes. So when you start Dendron, we actually start you off with a tutorial that walks you through some of the basics of what we just covered. We're actually in the middle of a major revamp because Dendron we do weekly releases, so it changes very fast. And so we're currently doing a recall of our tutorial, which should go live on Friday. But this tutorial you can access when you start off in Dendron, and also in the tutorial section of our Dendron wiki.
All right, sounds good. So there you go. If you want to try out Dendron for yourself, be sure to install the extension today, go through the tutorial, and if you have questions, join the Discord, join the GitHub, and let the team know what you think. So we'll wrap up now. Any last thoughts or words from your end?
Just thank you so much for having us on. We love being in VS Code. We spend most of our time in it, so being able to take notes and everything else on top of it just made sense. And in terms of where we're going with Dendron, we want to build the IDE for general knowledge. We're probably 1% of the way there, and so we would love to have anybody that's listening, anybody that's excited about this, please message me, email me, Discord, Twitter, any way that any way I can be reached, and let me know what your ideas are and what you would like to do with Engine.
All right. Cool. Thank you so much, Jonathan and Kevin. And thank you to the audience for watching. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Oh, I was just saying thank you. Thank you to you and the audience for your time and for having us on.
Awesome. Cool. And have a happy holidays, happy, safe, end of the year. And we'll see you again in 2022 on the same live stream. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.